The Panzer IV rolled into Poland in 1939 as Germany's workhorse, and it never stopped evolving. Built from welded and riveted steel armor, this medium tank started with 30 millimeters of protection, barely enough to stop anti-tank rifles. But the Germans learned fast. By 1943, the Panzer IV carried 80 millimeters of frontal armor and a long-barreled 75 millimeter KWK-40 gun that could punch through Allied armor at 1,000 meters. 25 tons of German engineering, powered by a Maybach V12 engine pushing 300 horsepower. It fired armor-piercing rounds, high-explosive shells, whatever the mission demanded. From the deserts of North Africa to the frozen hell of the Eastern Front, over 8,000 Panzer IVs fought in every major German campaign. You've seen it in Fury, in Saving Private Ryan, in countless World War II films, where its angular silhouette represents the Wehrmacht's armored fist. Today, a restored Panzer IV commands upward of $2 million at auction, if you can even find one. It mattered because it adapted. While Tigers grabbed headlines, the Panzer IV kept fighting, kept evolving, kept Germany's panzer divisions mobile when nothing else could. Then came the Panther, Germany's answer to Soviet armor superiority. When panzer crews first encountered the T-34 in 1941, they realized their tanks were outmatched. The Panther was Germany's response, and it was devastating. 45 tons of sloped armor, up to 100 millimeters thick at the front, angled at 55 degrees to deflect incoming shells. Powered by a 700 horsepower Maybach engine, this medium-heavy tank combined the T-34's sloped armor philosophy with German precision engineering. The 75 millimeter KWK-42 gun had a muzzle velocity so high it could penetrate 140 millimeters of armor at a kilometer. Panthers fired armor-piercing capped ballistic cap rounds, APCBC, designed to defeat sloped armor by maintaining trajectory after impact. 6,000 Panthers rolled off production lines between 1943 and 1945, deployed primarily on the Eastern Front and during the Normandy defense. A Bridge Too Far featured them. Band of Brothers showed American soldiers learning to fear that distinctive sloped profile. A functioning Panther today? $3 to $4 million, and museums guard them like treasures. The Panther mattered because it represented Germany's technological peak. Fast, deadly, beautifully engineered. It just came too late, and in too few numbers to change the outcome. The Tiger I needs no introduction. 56 tons of psychological warfare wrapped in steel. When British and American tank crews heard the word Tiger, morale crumbled. The Tiger's 100 millimeters of frontal armor could shrug off most Allied tank rounds. Its 88 millimeters KWK-36 gun, originally designed as anti-aircraft artillery, became the most feared tank weapon of the war, capable of destroying Shermans at ranges where Allied guns couldn't even scratch Tiger armor. This beast fired armor-piercing rounds that weighed over 20 pounds, traveling at nearly 3,000 feet per second. Only 1,347 Tigers were built. They were expensive, mechanically complex, required massive resources. But their impact far exceeded their numbers. Tigers anchored defensive lines in Tunisia, Italy, France, Russia. Michael Whitman's single Tiger destroyed an entire British armored column at Villers-Bocage. You've seen Tigers in Fury's climactic showdown, in Saving Private Ryan's Rommel battle. A Tiger I today sells for over $5 million when one surfaces. It mattered because it forced the Allies to completely rethink armor tactics. One Tiger could hold a position that should have required a dozen tanks. Fear has a value, and the Tiger calculated it in 88mm shells. America's answer was quantity over quality, and the M4 Sherman proved that sometimes being good enough in massive numbers beats being perfect in small batches. 30 tons of welded steel armor, powered by various engines, radials, diesels, whatever kept them rolling. The standard 75mm M3 gun couldn't reliably penetrate German heavy armor frontally, but Sherman crews learned to flank, to overwhelm, to use mobility and numbers. Later variants mounted 76mm guns and British 17-pounders, finally achieving parity with German armor. Shermans fired armor-piercing, high-explosive, even white phosphorus rounds. 50,000 Shermans were built, 50,000. They equipped American, British, Free French, Soviet, and dozens of other armies. Normandy beaches, Ardennes forests, Pacific islands, North African deserts, Shermans fought everywhere. Fury made the Sherman a character. The Pacific showed their island warfare role. A restored Sherman today runs $200,000 to $500,000, depending on variant and condition. The Sherman mattered because it could be everywhere at once. German tankers might win individual engagements, but when 5 Shermans appeared for every Panther destroyed, mathematics decided the war. The T-34 changed everything. When German panzers first encountered these Soviet mediums in summer 1941, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Sloped armor that deflected shots. Wide tracks that conquered mud and snow that bogged down German tanks. A 76.2mm gun that could kill German armor at range. 26 tons driven by a 500 horsepower diesel engine, diesel which didn't ignite like gasoline when hit. The T-34's armor was only 45mm thick, but sloped at angles that made it equivalent to much thicker vertical plate. It fired armor-piercing and high-explosive rounds, and Soviet factories churned out over 80,000 T-34s in various models. They spearheaded every major Soviet offensive from Moscow to Berlin. Kursk saw thousands clash in the largest tank battle in history. Enemy at the Gates featured them. T-34, the Russian film, made one the protagonist. Restored T-34s sell for $300,000 to $1 million. The T-34 mattered because it combined everything that matters in armor warfare: firepower, protection, mobility, in a package that could be mass-produced by a nation fighting for survival. It didn't need to be comfortable or sophisticated. It needed to reach Berlin, and it did. Britain's Churchill took a different philosophy: heavy infantry support over speed. 38 tons of riveted and welded steel with 102mm of frontal armor, this slow-moving fortress could climb obstacles that stopped other tanks. The 6-pounder gun was adequate, later upgraded to 75mm. Churchills fired armor-piercing and high-explosive rounds while crawling across battlefields at 15 miles per hour maximum. But that climbing ability made Churchills invaluable in Italy's mountains and Normandy's hedgerows. Over 5,000 were built, with specialized variants: flamethrower tanks, bridge layers, mine clearers. Churchills landed at Dieppe in 1942, fought through Tunisia and Italy, supported D-Day landings. Atonement showed them at Dunkirk. Darkest Hour referenced their development. A Churchill today commands $400,000 to $800,000. It mattered because sometimes you need a tank that simply cannot be stopped by terrain that provides mobile cover for infantry advancing under fire. Speed is worthless if you can't reach the objective. The Matilda II dominated early North African campaigns with armor no Italian or early German gun could penetrate. 26 tons carrying 78mm of frontal armor, This infantry tank was nearly invulnerable in 1940 to 41. The 2-pounder gun was weak offensively, but when your armor makes you immune to return fire, you can methodically destroy enemy positions. Matildas fired armor-piercing and high-explosive rounds at walking pace, 15 miles per hour maximum. Nearly 3,000 were built, fighting in North Africa, the Pacific, and supplied to Soviets under Lend-Lease. Once German 88mm guns arrived in Africa, Matilda's invulnerability ended, but for crucial early campaigns, they kept the British in the fight. Tobruk featured them. War documentaries show them crushing Italian positions. Matildas today sell for $600,000 to $1 million when available. The Matilda mattered because it bought time. Time for Britain to develop heavier guns. Time for American production to ramp up. Time measured in German shells bouncing off impenetrable armor. 7 tanks. 7 nations' philosophies of armored warfare made steel. Each one changed battlefields, rewrote tactical doctrine, saved or cost thousands of lives. They're in our films because they're unforgettable, distinctive silhouettes that carry the weight of history. If you learn something that changes how you watch the next World War II film, hit that like button. Subscribe to keep exploring the real machines behind cinema's greatest battles. The archive goes deeper than any single war.